Live, coming to you on a rather rainy, stormy Memorial Day here in Mississippi, USA. We as trainers, of course, we want to build a learning culture that moves the organization forwards, that helps the business to achieve their goals. So often, though, trainers are kind of pigeonholed as low level functionaries, and we get trapped in a cycle of building low level, transactional, compliance based trainings that are the day to day operations. Here's how you badge in, here's how you request your PTO time, here's how you fill out this form. Here's how you do the skills needed for your job, but it's at a very low level to be able to build a learning culture that moves the business forwards. We have to build and talk about strategy. And we have to build and align with the culture of the organization. And we have to build a taproot around the mission, vision, values of the organization. We have to know where the company wants to be 5 years, 10 years from now, so that we can start building that learning culture now. But how do you get access to all that information? How do we build the trust with leadership? How do we get time with leadership so that we can understand what's keeping them up at night? You have to do some very specific things to build that trust. How do you build the bridges, build the trust, get the opportunity to talk about all those higher level strategy, mission, vision, value, culture pieces? Where do we want to be in 10 years? How do you get to that? Well, it starts with building trust, and we're going to unpack 5 specific ways that you can build trust with the leadership in your organization to get access to that information so you can build more of a strategic learning environment instead of consistently just sort of banging out day to day operational level trainings. We're going to unpack that. We're going to unpack all of that right now on today's NBT Live. Great to see everybody. Get a little creator juice here to get going. I hope everybody is out there. Before we dive in, don't forget to visit noboringtraining.com, where you can find all sorts of resources, both for trainers and leaders alike. If you're new to corporate training, you've just pivoted over from education, or you want to spice up your training programs, there's lots of content for you there at noboringtraining.com. If you're the leader of an organization and you want to understand how to use training as a strategic tool, there's resources there for you as well. But today's NBT Live on here on Memorial Day, 5 ways to build trust with leadership in your organization. You want to build that trust so that you get the access, you get time with them, you get them to open up and share, here's where I want us to be in 5 years, here's the challenge that we're facing in the organization, here's the conditions I'm trying to build, here's who I need to develop to get us where we need to go, here's the gaps I see. You want the leader in your organization to share all that with you, but I can tell you that until you earn the trust of the leader, they're not likely to just volunteer that to you. So how do you build trust with your leadership? I'm going to give you 5 ways starting right now. Number 1, ask your leaders this very specific question. What condition needs to be created for us to get where we want to be 5 years from now? What condition are you, Mr. or Miss Leader, trying to create to help us get to where we want to be 5 years from now? What's the environment you're trying to build? What's the vibe you're trying to create? What is the condition that needs to be built inside the firm? Maybe it's a lack of ownership inside the organization. Maybe it's a communications issue. Maybe you've got a bunch of young leaders that aren't ready to make the jump from frontline management to, higher level director, VP type executive leadership. Maybe it's a condition of a lack of creativity and innovation that needs to be built and fostered and grown. Maybe it's building out more processes. Maybe your organization just sort of makes it up as they go, and there's no real defined processes. Could be a whole range of different conditions that need to be built inside the organization. Maybe it's a mindset of resiliency. Maybe it's a mindset of failing fast. We're going to try some new things and new approaches. Maybe it's changing deeply embedded mindsets. Maybe there's a mindset of, we just focus on looking good in meetings. Maybe there's a bad meeting culture. It could be 10 trillion different things. What condition does that leader want to create to get the company where it needs to be 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road? Or what's the condition that's going to help the springboard forwards? What's the condition, the environment, the vibe? What is the thing that needs to be built? What is the skill that needs to be built? What is the behavior that needs to be changed? It's all part of this first tip, which is asking senior leaders, hey, what do we got to do to get us where we want to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now? What keeps you up at night that's going to prevent us from getting where we want to be 10 years from now? What is keeping you laying awake at night? What is making you anxious? What is the gap you see? Ask them that question. Now, if you don't have a relationship built, if you haven't demonstrated that you're more of a strategic thinker, they may not come right out and answer that question directly. But when you ask that question, it starts to signal, hey, I'm thinking 5 years down the road also. I'm also thinking into the future. I'm also thinking, how do I help you get where you want us to be down the road? Because training can help set the stage for that condition to happen. So let's say it's the leader says, "Oh, we need we need to develop our leadership team. Our team is very young or not very skilled or whatever." Well, guess what? Now, as a trainer, you can dive into really lining out leadership training programs for your organization. Maybe that senior leader says, "I need more creativity. I need more ownership." Well, guess what? Now you can start to go down that road and you could start to make proposals based on what that leader needs. But it all starts by asking that question and asking it not only of the most senior leader, but the senior level leader's direct reports, the sort of the next tier down from that senior leader. Not frontline managers, but those the VPs, the directors, the CEO types, not general manager, what do you call it? Branch managers, I can't think of the word. Anyway, the higher level leaders in the organization. What condition do we need to create so that we can get where we want to be 5 years, 10 years into the future? That's number one. First question you should be asking senior leaders that's going to start to build trust with them. Number two, the second way to start to build trust with those senior leaders so you get more access, you can have a seat at the table so you can get a sense or a glimpse into where that leader's trying to go. Study your business. Study the business. Study business, period. Study business. How does business function? Especially if you're new to the organization, if you just pivoted over from education, for example, you need to learn how the business world works before you start applying, before you start talking scaffolding and chunking. You need to understand how business works. So study business. If you're already in the business world and you're a corporate trainer and you're trying to make a jump into more of like a learning leadership role or start to think more strategically, study market trends, study market challenges. What are the competitors to your firm doing or not doing? What is happening in the world around you? And this goes back to the hard truth 17 from the hard truths of becoming a no boring trainer, which by the way is available in PDF form at noboringtraining.com. The hard truths of becoming a no boring trainer, 20 hard truths that will help you graduate from basic level training to training that moves the organization forward. There's 20 hard truths, 15 infographics, 60-page PDF that's really going to help you elevate the training that you deliver. And it's a PDF that I wrote. It's available at noboringtraining.com for less than the price of a cup of coffee. It's called The Hard Truths of Becoming a No Boring Trainer. Hard truth number 17 is really understanding the business world, understanding what makes things tick around you, what's affecting the company, and starting to build trainings around that. If you start studying business and then talking in business terms to the leaders of your organization, that's going to start to resonate and signal to them that, hey, not only are they asking what do we need to build today to get us to where we want to be in the future, point number one, they're understanding how this business works. That leads me to tip number three of how do you build trust with leadership. That's what we're really unpacking in this Memorial Day pop-up live here at NBT Live. Study your organization, and I've got a lot of little sub points and I keep glancing over at my notes to make sure I don't miss them, but this really all harkens back to the hard truths of becoming a no boring trainer, hard truth 12, which is it's valuable to know your organization. It's more important that you know and understand how your organization works than it is to get down into the weeds of different learning styles or Bloom's taxonomy or this approach or that approach or what is AI. Understand your organization. Ask your leader, number one, ask your leader what's the thing we got to build today that's going to help us get to where we want to be down the road. Number two, study the business and really understand business, both business in general and your business specifically. And then study your organization. Study your organization. And what does that look like? How do the different functions in your organization fit together? In other words, if you have a sales team, how does the sales team interact? The sales team in the field interact with the support team in the office. What are the different support teams? Is there an inside sales team? Is there a customer service team? Is there some sort of technical engineering group? Is there a escalations level type group? Are there different functions if it's a banking institution based on credit, commercial, or business related? So you have different teams with different focuses there, or maybe different teams organized around different products that are offered. How do those functions fit together? If it's a manufacturing environment, how does the manufacturing team deal with, like, if there's like a lean engineering or some sort of continuous improvement group, how do they fit together? Is there a supply chain piece that fits together? Is there an engineering quality control type group? How do those pieces play together? Maybe it's a food quality type thing. And you have different quality inspectors spread across 15 different plants in a whole bunch of different states. How do those pieces all fit together? And how do the quality inspectors report to the quality team back at headquarters, or do they report to the local plant? Because that's a whole dynamic. So how do all these functions inside the business, how do they fit together? Who are the players inside the organization? Who are the people that have a lot of, title authority because of their title? Who has a lot of implied authority because of their expertise, their experience, their role? Maybe they're just a natural born leader and they can influence other people and they don't need to have a title. So who are the players inside the organization? What are the competencies of your organization? So maybe it's a medical, a chain of doctor's offices, and you've got 5 different offices across the local area or something. And your competency is that you keep your schedule and patients never have to wait more than X period of time. Not always. I'm not sure of any doctor that actually offers that, but let's say that's your competency. You keep a really good schedule so patients don't have to wait forever for a doctor. Well, what is that competency so that you can then build trainings that support that? Because guess what? Your next person who is building the schedule and taking appointments, or maybe the office manager or your appointment setting software, all needs to be set up in such a way that it maintains that competency. What are the advantages that your company has? Maybe it's a manufacturer's rep sales company, and your advantage over the other gazillion manufacturers reps is that you actually take time to learn the products that you're representing, and you invest time in training. Maybe you don't have as broad a portfolio of firms you represent, but you really know them really, really well. Well, if you know that that's your strength and that's your advantage over all the other rep firms, guess what? You have to develop training around the idea that your people are going to learn the products that you're representing. Now, most of that training will come from the companies that you represent, but you have to integrate into that, and you have to train your new reps to be ready for that. What are the weaknesses in your company? And really studying that. What are the weaknesses of your firm or your organization? And can you, as a trainer, spot them and maybe start to build trainings, even if it's at the tactical day to day level now? Build trainings that are going to help bridge the gap to where the leader wants to be 5 or 10 years from now. So guess what? You can start to strengthen those weaknesses. Maybe do an old-fashioned SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, whatever. But it's really about investing time in understanding your organization. Sometimes as trainers, we get very heads down. We're either delivering training, we're creating, building the next e-learning module, we're building content, we're doing logistics, we're sending out meeting invites, we're fighting over conference rooms that got stolen from us, whatever. We get very heads down and we forget that we're there to serve the business. So understand your business, understand your company, understand your organization. And here's why that's going to build trust with leadership. When you understand your organization and you understand the business, you are then able to make proposals back to leadership about training that's going to capitalize and fit and align with the needs of not only your business organization, but the business environment that your company works in. So let's say, combining these two thoughts, point number 2 is study business in general. And number 3, study your organization. Let's combine those. As a trainer, if you understand that the market is changing, maybe that's because of AI, maybe that's because of the current political environment or economic situations, or there's consolidation. Let's say there's consolidation across your industry. You can now build trainings that help deal with those things that are happening. You can build trainings that respond to the needs of your teams because you're sitting back and going, you know what? The field is getting more competitive out there because fill in the blank reason. So let's build trainings that help our teams be more competitive around our core competencies, or around our advantages that we offer to our customers, or around a weakness, that's helped strengthen an area of weakness. Or maybe it's an area of weakness for your competitor. Maybe your competitor has an area of weakness, so you build trainings to maximize the strengths of your company so that you can go out and get more business directly against the competitor's weakness. So you got to study business in general, let alone the business world that your company works in, and you got to study the organization. And like I said, in both of those, that hits back on the hard truths of becoming a no boring trainer, hard truth 17 and hard truth number 12. And if you'd like to learn more about the hard truths of becoming no boring trainer, I encourage you to visit noboringtraining.com, where you can purchase your copy, download it, and for less than the price of a cup of coffee, instantly start transforming your training inside your organization. All right, point number 4, fourth thing you could do to start to build trust with leadership. Make proposals. Make proposals based on points 1, 2, and 3. Make proposals. Now, senior leaders, they don't want to be the ones coming up with all the ideas. It should not. Now, maybe your organization is different. In which case, that's a whole different that's a whole different NBT Live. But in a lot of cases, senior level leaders are wanting ideas and creativity and new approaches to come from the bottom up every bit as much as it comes from the top down. Again, some organizations are a little bit more autocratic than others. That aside, the more we as trainers are saying, here's what I see, here's the evidence that supports what I see, here is an option, here is the risk and the investment needed for this option, and here is my recommendation. Or here is option A and option B to deal with this thing I see. Option A is going to be this risk and this investment. Option B is going to be this risk and this investment. My recommendation is option B, but here's some different options to consider. Get good at making proposals back up to senior leadership, whether it's the top person in your organization or that leadership group. Making proposals is a skill that a certified no boring trainer should have. And it really ties back into the hard truth 11 of the hard truths of being a no boring trainer. Getting good at making proposals to leadership is actually more important than your design choices, cool transitions in between slides in your PowerPoint deck. Or do we have a cool game for our session? Those are good skills. Don't get me wrong. You should have those as a trainer, but it's more important, and you'll build more trust and you'll move the organization forward more quickly if you get good at making proposals inside your organization as a trainer. Here's the situation I see. Here's what it looks like. Go back to tip number one, asking your CEO, asking your leader, what condition needs to be created to help us bridge to where we want to be 5 years or 10 years from now? What do we got to build today to get us where we want to go tomorrow? Well, then when they tell you that, guess what? You quickly come back with proposals within a reasonable period of time and say, based on our conversation where you said we need to build X, Y, and Z, here's option A, B, and C, and here's what my recommendations are. Here's the risks and the implications. And then now that starts a discussion and you start more collaboration and you get the back and forth going. And the leader's saying, well, what about this and that? And geez, you know what? Why don't you go partner with this person? Or why don't you, yeah, I like that one. Go run with that one. Or option C, I don't really like that one because of blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. Delete option C. But now you're starting a conversation with the leader with proposals that you're bringing back to them based on what they said they needed to build to get them now, to get them where they wanted to be in the future. You're coming back with solutions tied directly to what they told you they needed to get where they wanted to go. What does that look like when you study the business and maybe there's some market challenges? You know, there's a tightening or consolidation in the market, or the economy is getting tougher, or competition's getting tougher, that maybe they're undercutting you. Make some proposals to your leadership. Hey, things are getting tough. Prices are constricting. You know, revenues are declining because we're not getting as high a price as we used to, or maybe our margins are getting squeezed. Here are 2 or 3 different trainings that we could offer to our teams on how to protect margin. Or maybe it's negotiation training. You know, we're seeing margins get squeezed. So we need to train the sales team on how to negotiate better to protect those margins. Maybe it's, you know, your competition has a new product offering. So now you have to, you know, train your sales team on how to overcome those objections for that new product offering. What does it look like to make proposals when you study your organization? Well, I mean, that one's pretty straightforward, right? You study that, you know, maybe there's a breakdown between 2 functions inside your business. Group A is not playing well with Group B. And maybe it's a breakdown in communication. Maybe it's a breakdown in processes. Maybe it's a breakdown in systems. You can design training to address some of those, you know, with the caveat that if there is no process, if the process is broken, training doesn't fix broken processes. But why not propose a alignment workshop between Group A and Group B to review that process and diagnose and figure out where it's breaking down. And you just go and facilitate the workshop where they figure out for themselves where the process is broken and how they can fix it, and then help them to redefine the process. So get good at making proposals. Get good at quickly outlining. Here is the challenge. Here is the implication and the impact of that challenge or that risk or that gap or that opportunity inside the organization. Here's what's happening because of it. Here is what I'm recommending. Here is option one, or here's option one, here's option two, here's option three. Here are the risks and resources needed for all those different options. And here's what I'm recommending, and getting really good at spelling that out very quickly. I'm talking like one page, one email with a table and some bullet points. I'm not talking like a 30-page doctoral thesis that nobody's going to read. Get good at making proposals in a way that makes sense for your organization. Maybe your organization does like 30-page doctoral theses. Well, then thesi, then do it that way. Maybe your leadership team just likes a quick one-pager. Maybe yours likes tables. Maybe your leadership likes PowerPoint decks. I don't know, whatever. Figure that part's irrelevant. Figure out how to quickly propose options back to senior leadership and propose training solutions. Hey, I'm proposing that we have an e-learning series built around blah, blah, blah. Hey, I'm proposing a mixed group of in-person sessions, e-learning, maybe some micro explainer videos, and some live workshops. Whatever it is, doesn't matter, but get good at making those proposals based on tips 1, 2, and 3 here. So, all right, we're down to the 5th tip. How do you build trust with leadership? 5 practical tips to build trust with leadership. Number 1, ask your leaders what condition needs to be created today to get you where you want to be 5 years from now. What do we got to start building? What's the condition, the environment, the vibe, the skill set that needs to be built today to get us where we want to be 5 years, 10 years down the road? Number 2, study business in general, and your business environment in particular. Number 3, study your organization. Really get down into the weeds and understand what makes your company tick, what makes them breathe, really understand your organization as a whole. Really, really important. Number 4, get good at making proposals back to leadership. That's going to build trust. When you go back to your leadership regularly with options and solutions tied to these big picture business needs, that's going to cause leaders to go, okay. And again, it's going to create that dialogue and that discussion and that, okay, maybe this is something we should explore. And even if they don't want to move forward with your recommendations or your proposals, it's signaling to them, hey, I'm thinking about big picture business and learning culture, learning programs that help execute on business needs. I'm not just down here doing low-level day-to-day operational stuff. I'm building trainings that are a strategic tool to help move the business forward, to expand the culture, to expand mission, vision, values, to help execute on big picture goals. That's what I'm really focused on. Now, if part of that might be some sort of day-to-day low-level thing, and that's fine. That's what we do as trainers, right? But you got to always be thinking big picture business. And when you get good at making proposals based on points 1, 2, and 3, you build trust that you get more access. They open up more, they tell you more, and now it becomes sort of a self-licking ice cream cone, which is a good thing. You want that feedback loop, that access, that discussion to continue. All right, and now we get down to point number 5. Stay with me a little bit on this one, NBT Nation. But this is how you get results, not yawns. Get really fast at content creation. Hard truth of becoming a no boring trainer 13. Hard truth 13. It is better to be fast and efficient at content creation than to be the world's snazziest content creator as a trainer. Now, don't get me wrong, you want your training material to be very high quality. Of course. You want your training material to fit the branding of your organization and whatever internal standards you've set. Of course. But sometimes as trainers, we go a little bit heads down and we get down into the weeds of, oh, did the slide transition work the way I wanted it to? The graphics, I made an infographic, or and we play around with font choice, and it should be bigger or bigger or smaller. E-learnings, is this being triggered at the right time, and is it as cool of an effect as we wanted? And we'll spend hours sometimes on these little details. And don't get me wrong, those details are important, and assuming you're meeting the minimum quality standards of your organization, which may take a lot of time to get to that minimum standard of quality. It is better to be fast and efficient than fret and stew for 7 weeks over something that's only going to be seen on screen for 30 seconds by a handful of people. You got to find the balance there. Don't get it twisted. There has to be quality, or else people are going to be like, oh, this is garbage. But if you focus too much on quality that doesn't matter, it doesn't produce a result, you're going to take too long creating things. If you want to really erode trust with leadership, tell them it's going to take you 3 months to build out a training for something that really should take you 3 days or 3 weeks. The second they hear 3 months, that's a whole quarter. A quarter is a lifetime in the business world. Now, some things take that long to build. Don't get it twisted. Of course, some things take a very long time to build out. I get that. But when you start inflating how long things take to build, that really erodes trust with leaders. Now, I'm not saying go fast and just slap stuff together and it looks like junk. But when you get really good and efficient at creating things very quickly, it builds trust with leaders. It signals, hey, not only am I a business partner and I'm focused on business problems and I'm helping you try to build the conditions you need for business success 4 years, 5 years, 6 years down the road. Not only am I somebody who's really focused on moving the business forwards, I'm focused on doing it efficiently and quickly, and I can help you respond and execute quickly. Now, there's a danger to this, and it's probably a subject of a different NBT Live, where sometimes leaders don't understand how long it does actually take to build something. And so they'll want this super complicated program built in, 2 minutes when it should take 2 weeks. And the pendulum is now too far the other way. They want something super quick that takes a long time to build. That's a different problem. When you let the pendulum swim back this way, though, and you're the one that's overinflating it, that's going to erode trust. So focus on, how do I make content quickly? How do I leverage the AI tools? Articulate. I'm not affiliated with Articulate, but they've got a really cool AI thing where you just drag drop an existing PowerPoint in, and you've got the framework inside of Rise 360 for a pretty nice e-learning that you can quickly, within a week or two, get an e-learning built and through your approvals process. At least get the program, you can at least get it started very quickly, is what I'm trying to say. A video, get really good at using video templates if you're doing explainer videos. I leverage explainer videos all the time. I probably do them way too much. I can crank out an explainer video off the top of my head doing a Microsoft Teams, record it directly inside Teams, record a video message. I can do that off the top of my head. I do that all the time. Now, is that the most polished, crisp, scripted training that I want to be used as a doctrinal training piece that, is going to live until the end of time? No, of course not. But if I have to get something done very quickly and out the door, I can, give me an hour and I'll turn something around and get it back to you. I can respond super quickly. So get fast at content creation. Understand what needs more time and what needs less time. And then how can I continuously improve quality work much more quickly? Come up with a PowerPoint template or a Canva template for all your decks and just repeat it so you're not building slide after slide after slide. Use all the AI tools to build out slide decks. Use the AI tools in Canva. Again, I'm not associated with them at all either. Use use Canva to create your infographics. We love the creative piece of building the training content, right? We plan, we build, we deliver. But we can get stuck there sometimes. So, anyway, point number 5 of how to build trust with leadership: get really good and really fast with your content creation, because it signals to leadership, hey, this is a person that can help me solve problems, and they can execute quickly. They can give me solutions and help execute on them in a reasonable time frame. They're not just overinflating everything. So there you have it, my friends. There you have it, NBT Nation. 5 tips to help you build trust with leadership so that you get more opportunities, you get more access, you get more collaboration, you get more time to build out learnings that take you to more of the strategic role as opposed to the day-to-day operational or tactical level role. Ask your senior leaders what condition needs to be created now to help us get to where we want to be in 5 to 10 years. Study business, either business in general or the market trends and challenges for your specific company. Study the internal workings of your organization. Get really quick at making proposals and get really fast at content creation. Those are 5 practical things you can do as a trainer to really increase the trust level and the understanding and the partnership you can have with leadership. As I mentioned throughout today's NBT Live, you can get your copy of The Hard Truths of Becoming a No Boring Trainer. Today we referenced Hard Truths 17, 12, 11, and 13. Hit on a few of them today. Get your copy of The Hard Truths of Becoming No Boring Trainer at noboringtraining.com for less than the price of a cup of coffee. 60 pages, 20 hard truths, 15 infographics, and tons of practical tips. So there you have it, NBT Nation. 5 tips to improve the trust of your leader has in training, to build those bridges with leadership, to get you the information you need, the opportunities you need, the access you need to be able to help them at a more strategic role. Thanks for popping in, everybody. I hope everybody has a great Memorial Day. I know this is a very serious holiday, at least here in the States, where we're honoring a lot of people over the years who've given a lot, given everything in some cases. So hopefully everyone is having a great Memorial Day, no matter what part of the world you might be in. Thanks, everybody.